Hello, everyone. It's Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology here for Asteri Sofia Kairos for December 24th through 31st. And this week is obviously a holiday week. I think we all know that. And there's not much going on. We've got Venus entering Capricorn, which I sort of went over last week, but I'm going to do it again this week. And then we have December 27th, Mercury in Sagittarius trines Chiron in Aries. And December 30th, Mercury in Sagittarius squares Saturn in Pisces. And I think because it's a holiday week, it's a bit of a liminal sort of week, especially on the 24th. Venus will square Neptune just before it moves into Capricorn, which is liminal in itself. But I think between holidays and parties and things like that, it's one of those things where it feels like a strange week no matter what transit is happening. But when it comes to Venus entering Capricorn, I think that this is something that can ground us. And I think that is very good through this holiday season. Venus in astrology, to make it really simple, is love and money. It's what we want, it's what we find beautiful, it's how we balance our lives. And when it moves into Capricorn, that's more of a commitment rather than in Sagittarius when it was more of kind of optimistic. So in Capricorn, it could be responsibilities. I think love becomes embodied when Venus enters Capricorn. There's much more to demonstrate with Venus and Capricorn. So you can ask yourself, what are you building with your love, your money, even your time? Time is money in this society. So it's devotional. And I really like Venus and Capricorn for this holiday season. I think that's going to be nice. And it's there a lot during the holiday season because Venus is never very far away from the sun, and the sun is usually in Capricorn. So we have oftentimes either Venus in Sag, Capricorn, or Aquarius, depending on the year. And this year, it's in the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. So I think we can see the buildup here with Mars and the sun as well, and look at it and say there's a little bit of an overwhelmingly cardinal feeling to this. We have Jupiter in a cardinal sign, Chiron's in a cardinal sign. So cardinal risings can pay attention during this time because you're going to have transits over your angles. I like that Venus is there, but Mars is a little more inflammatory. Luckily, we have some Cazinis coming up in January that I think are going to be really nice. All right. So that brings us to December 27th. And if you can see, that means we skip over Christmas, right? So let me just point out that during Christmas, the moon will be in Pisces. And I think that is pretty wonderful. It's a really magical sign. The caveat there being that Saturn is there, and Saturn can be magical in its own right, though. So I think that's going to be a really sweet Christmas moon to have. But by the 27th, we have the moon in Aries, and we have Mercury in Sagittarius chugging along, and it's going to be trine Chiron. So the reason I have the heart with truth here is because Chiron is healing. It can be sensitive, though. It's known as the wounded healer, and it can show us sensitive areas in our lives, especially in areas where our identity is concerned, where independence is concerned. So when we have Mercury trining it, trines are supportive. Mercury's in Sagittarius. That is truth. So I think this is maybe some true words spoken that can be healing. Words can unlock wounds. So we can have honest conversations around this time. You can maybe say some things that you need to get off your chest. As you can see, at the same time, Jupiter is square Chiron. So this spot is pretty sensitive. It's having some things ping it. During this trine, the moon is going to be square Mars. So I would expect it to be a little bit of I guess inflammatory is a good word for Mars, especially when the moon's in Mars's sign. So you might look at this day as a little sensitive. I would definitely practice journaling. And if you have to say some true words, try to do so without, you know, too much harshness. I guess it's the difference between being bold in your truth and just, letting it fly and being a little reckless with it. So, yeah, use this time to zero in on some things that you might be holding inside that you want to get off your chest or that you just maybe even need to speak to yourself. So, writing's a good thing to do during this. And then to round out not just the holiday season, but the year, Mercury in Sagittarius squares Saturn. And I love that it comes on the heels of the Mercury trine Chiron because there is something that needs to change here. It could be moody, Mercury square Saturn. It feels like there's obstacles to maybe the picture or the story we had in our head, and Saturn brings some realism to it. There could just be a feeling of heaviness, maybe even thoughts of it, because Mercury is how we think and how we speak. It can feel like miscommunication, maybe even being misunderstood, but you could also take your time with this transit and try to bring whatever story is in your head into reality, right? So, what what actually holds up under the pressure of Saturn here, especially if it's something you've got in your mind, in your head, and it doesn't quite feel possible at this time, right? So, maybe, a little bit of a heavy transit to end the year with, but luckily it's quick. It'll be very quick, and the moon's in Taurus, which means, Venus is taking kind of a center stage here. The moon will be trine Venus on the way to this square, so I think we have some help from moon trine Venus, moon trine Sun. Problem is at the exact square, the moon is trine Mars, so, when you have an exact trine to Mars, the Martian things can come up, right? So frustrations and sometimes anger, but hopefully on the heels of the trine to Venus and the sun, it'll be softer and we can maybe try not to force things. That's a good motto to have during this transit. Then it's the end of the year. Happy New Year, everybody. I won't be back for December 31st through January 7th. I'm not exactly sure who is going to take us through that, but I can tell you that this year holds a lot of very, very big transits, big life changes, big life moves. So, you can start to tune into that as we get to that Mercury square Saturn. And it's like, what am I ready to do? What is this year going to bring me? So there's always a full breakdown on Substack. We post everything there. So please go check that out. asterisofiakairos.substack.com. Like, share, subscribe. We would love that. And hopefully this year we're going to be bringing you some more really cool things that break down astrology even further. You can always ask Kairos. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for joining in.